On day 51, I woke up at 2 a.m. and the first thing I did was to eat 2 bags of chips in order to flip from losing to gaining weight. After that, I reached my car and in front of it, I had to kill a Zed. Looking to the south, not far from my location, I noticed a group of 2 I decided to fight as well. Initially, I wanted to push them to the ground, but once I got ambushed from behind, I changed tactics and jumped over the fence on the other side of the road. This allowed me to deal with all 3, and while looting them, I had to avoid another ambush and kill the troublemaker in the process. Seconds after, another 2 came to die and finally it was safe for me to get in my vehicle. Once near my truck, I had to fight another group of 3 near the right fence. Later, I was able to reach the highway and it was clear until the entrance in the Spiffo restaurant, where I had to kill 4 pedestrians that came with a good distance between each others. From here, I moved toward the bank on foot and dealt with 2 enemies near the white vehicles. After taking one watch, I noticed more near the other cars in the parking. They came in groups of 2 for a total of 4 victims to add to my kill count. Later, I entered the purple dart and found out that I have a key for it, but how usually no battery charge and fuel left to drive it back to base. Loot-wise, it had only some earbuds to dismantle in the glove box, plus a screwdriver and an empty garbage bag in the trunk. After that, I checked the white car trunk and it had a wrench for me to loot. Getting inside allowed me to find its key in the ignition, but again no fuel and battery charge left. Checking the seats on the last one, I found a walkie-talkie, a magazine and even some duct tape. The glove box also had a walkie-talkie, plus 2 decent pieces of literature and a pack of cigarettes. Both vehicles had some decent parts and the Dart even had a perfect engine. So it was a good idea to add both cars in the map to remember to add them to my collection in the future. While closing the map, I heard someone to the east and I had to reach the wrecked Dart to deal with a newcomer. At this point, it was time to loot the graveyard I created yesterday in the lawn behind the 2 vehicles. Beside the usual stuff, I also found a machete, a pair of military elbow pads, a 1911 pistol, a Desert Eagle and a firefighter axe. Later, I finally found the leather neck I equipped immediately. The same Zed had also some leather gloves in good condition and a club hammer for me to loot. From the next corpses pile, I found a bonus magazine. Going back to my car, I found that a group of 4 formed behind it. Carefully, I aggroed the first 2 and killed them separately. One of them even had a hand fork for me to loot. Seconds later, I dealt with the other 2 and finally reached my car trunk in order to unload the new loot inside. At this point, I was able to reach the next billboard before I had to stop and fight the next horde from the opposite side of the highway. After killing the first one, I noticed that another horde from the southwest decided to join. This forced me to fall back. To make it easier fighting both hordes at the same time, I went inside the bank, closed the door behind me, and positioned myself behind the windows. The first kill was easy, but for the second I had to fight regularly after being pushed back. The couch was messing up with my combo, and despite one-shotting the first, I hit the air when the second climbed over. After some struggle, I was able to push to the ground the first 2, but the third was able to grab me. Thankfully, my character initialized the self-defense animation. Once I pushed him back to the ground, another group of 2 climbed through. Only one was able to stand up, and after pushing him back down, I was able to kill all of the Zeds that piled under my feet. Before I could finish, another one decided to join the slaughter, and after a few more hits, all of them were dead. After that, another one decided to get inside and die from the first hit. At this point, I had to remove the glass shards from one of the windows and climb through. I made it in time before the group broke in and reached the windows. My bad timing allowed them to push me away and I found myself surrounded. It was time to retreat back to the Spiffo parking lot, where I managed to easily kill the 3 fast one. But then the 4th was really stubborn, giving time for the 5th to outflank me. Despite that, I still managed to push them to the ground and kill them both. After taking one watch, I defeated the last member of that group that was slowly approaching me from the southwest. Going back to the bank, I found 4 extra Zeds to kill. Once I killed the 4th, I heard a door breaking and noticed that a group just left the bank. But they was easy to deal with. At this point, I was sure to be close to be out of breath, so it was time to go back inside the spiffo and take a breather sitting on one of its chairs. 30 minutes later, I was ready to go and move to the main graveyard on the left bank lawn. Here I found only one Zed to kill, but the noise of this fight started attracting more. To make it easier to fight them, I retreated inside the bank, and staying behind the windows, I was able to easily deal with the first. The second refused to fall for the trap and charged me from the main door, only to find his face flattened soon after. The next moment, the third climbed through the window and I failed to hit him, giving him the opportunity to push me away. I regained composure faster than he was able to stand up. This allowed me to one-shot him. A few seconds later, another one climbed through the window, but this time I didn't have any issues in dealing with him. At this point was time to loot the corpses pile. Beside the usual, I also found a pistol and some matches. I also took the opportunity to loot the bank starting from its garbage bin near the entrance, from where I obtained a cockroach I could use later for fishing. The next loot were to be found in another garbage bin near the second entrance. Within I found some scrap metal and some maggots. A few seconds after, I was interrupted by an intruder I dealt with promptly. Then I checked the storage room, where in the metal shelf I found a box of garbage bags, followed by another one lying on the ground with a screwdriver and a bleach bottle. The last loot in the storage room was in a cardboard box, from where I obtained some rat poison. Going upstairs, I found several office cubicles. Searching those, I found a magazine in the first and a radio in the second, followed by a CD player in the third, a paperback and a cordless phone in the fourth. After that, I reached the kitchen, from where I obtained an empty bowl in the first cupboard, plus a light bulb and some coffee in the last one with loot. Moving to the bathroom, I found only a steel sheet under its door frame. The next loot was in the director office, where from the ground I obtained some twine and a magazine. After that, I found some maggots and a cockroach in the last container to loot. Before I could go back downstairs, I had to kill 2 Zeds that reached me on the second floor. At this point, it was left only to search the basement of this place. I couldn't access the 2 rooms locked behind a security and metal doors. I will need a sledgehammer for those. But I still was able to loot the office I found down here. The best item I found was a personal computer that I dismantled immediately for some electronic experience. Plus, searching the desk it was placed on, I found a paperclip and a flask containing some gin. The last loot of this room was in a garbage bin, from where I obtained some scrap metal, a jar of nacho cheese, a garbage bag, and even some cornmeal. The last one can be used as condiment and as core ingredient in producing some high-calories food, like pizza. Speaking about the garbage bag, before grabbing it, I looted a rope and a snack within. Plus, I thrown away the rotten food I don't need. To finish looting the bank, I also found a small storage room near the staircase. This allowed me to inspect a wall metal shelf that had a tarp, a box of garbage bags, and a bleach bottle for me to loot. I also noticed that I became tired, and it was time to leave the bank using its side entrance. Here I found a Zed to fight, and pushing him away gave me an injury. Once he was dead, I had to bandage my right hand scratch, and despite there was an enemy nearby, I decided to loot the corpse under my feet. The first thing I did was to drop to the ground the chest rig he was wearing. Within, I found a schematic that teaches how to make a bone shoulder, followed by a Cooking Volume 4 skill book, a bag of chips, some canned beans, a candle, an annotated map, and even the rare Aiming Volume 5 skill book. After that, I had to fight 2 Zeds that came from different directions, and then I kept looting the previous body. The next loot to collect was a spiked sharp metal forearm armor. This is a new gear piece in build 42 that protects the forearm and is also the reason why I was injured while pushing away the Zed. Initially, I equipped it on the left forearm, but this removed the watch I was already wearing. Ignoring that, I equipped the 2 shin guards that replaced the knee pads, but double the protection of that body part. On the same corpse, I also found a pistol and a large hook. The last one is a new short blade weapon. It also says that is a tool, but I don't know what is used for. Anyway, the last loot was a duffel bag that I don't need, but I dropped it to the ground to see what is inside. This allowed me to find a schematic, a Pottery Volume 4 skill book, some pork rinds, a paperback and a magazine that teaches how to make a snare trap used to catch rabbits and squirrels. After that, I also found a gas mask and a spare filter for it, plus a Cooking Volume 4 skill book, a bag of chips, some canned corn, and another annotated map. While moving away from the bank, I finally noticed that the new forearm protection removed my watch and I equipped it back on the other forearm. Immediately after, I heard someone behind the bank and I went to fight the two Zeds hiding there. I also started to fall asleep. Ignoring that, I kept pushing toward the residential buildings to the southeast. This forced me to fight a Zed at the crossroad. To save my weapon durability, I opted to stomp instead of swinging my pipe. After collecting a steak knife that was stuck in his back, I had to fight a group of two that ambushed me. I killed the first, but had to retreat soon after, because a larger group started to surround me. To lose them, I went behind the left property, passing through the back and main entrances forced them to start breaking the windows. Going to the south, I aggro a few more and walked around the next property to the south to lose them. Finally, I reached the attorney building that I looted 2 days ago, and this led me toward the truck I left at the crossroad. I started unloading my loot in its trunk to lose the encumbrance Moodle, but was interrupted by a Zed that came from the east. Fighting him made me exhausted. Despite that, I continued unloading my loot and had to fight another troublemaker that came from the south. After that, I was able to unload enough loot to lose the encumbrance Moodle and was ambushed by a sneaky Zed. My quick reaction allowed me to kill him without taking any injury. At this point, I was ready to drive back to base, and to my delight, no enemies was on my way there. The next few hours I spent unloading my truck and finally decided to go to sleep almost at 1 AM.